Hi everybody, this is Joshua Kirk back with you guys once again on YouTube. And now it's time for episode 38 of Album of the Day. And as you notice, the day that I'm doing this review is a little different because I typically do reviews on Saturday mornings. But since I'm going to be on a vacation to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania this weekend, and since I'm going to be like in a hotel room on Saturday morning, I'm going to do it today on Friday morning. So yeah, today's review is a little different as far as the date is concerned because it is on a Friday, not a Saturday. So it's like a day early from when I usually do a review, so. But anyway, aside from that, let's get on to the review then. Today's artist is kind of a folk, Americana, alt country type singer-songwriter from Moscow, Idaho. His name is Josh Ritter. He's been around since about 1997, and he's put out a bunch of like albums that you could say is like a singer-songwriter album, but there is kind of a difference between Josh Ritter and a lot of like modern like singer-songwriters making music today. He has a certain dynamic in his songwriting that just sets him apart from most like songwriters out there. That kind of makes him beyond the traditional singer-songwriter type artist, which makes him more of kind of a folky, kind of Bob Dylan-esque type of singer-songwriter. So I'm here to review his 2010 album released on May 4th in that year. The album is called So Runs the World Away. And I think this is Josh Ritter's first album that's like self-released because it's released on a label called Pythias Recordings, although there's not a logo shown for that record label on there. But I assume this is probably self-released because I think Josh Ritter's the only person that's ever been on that label. But anyway, here's the cover. I really love this cover art. It's pretty cool. It's got like a sea ship right there sailing into a harbor. Looks like it could be like some sort of cruise ship or something. But anyway, I love this artwork. So anyway, there's the cover, the spine, and the back of the CD. So the songs on here are Curtains, which is an intro track, Change of Time, The Curse, Southern Pacifica, Rattling Locks, Folk Bloodbath, Lark, Lantern, The Remnant, See How Man Was Made, Another New World, Orbital, and Long Shadows. And it was produced by Sam Cassarier, who is the keyboardist in Josh Ritter's touring band called the Royal City Band, which consists of Sam Cassarier on keyboards, Austin Nevins on guitar, Zach Hickman on bass, who's played with Josh Ritter on like pretty much every album he's put out, and Liam Hurley on drums. It was produced by Sam Cassarier at the Great North Sound Society, which I assume is like a recording studio or something. But anyway, there's Josh Ritter, right there. And I think I see like an upright bass in that picture too. And there's a booklet in here that I'd like to show you. It's got the lyrics and the credits and everything you need to know. And then there's like, not like the personnel, like musician and instrument liner notes, but on the back here it's like production notes and all that stuff. And let me show you the CD. There's the CD itself right there. And there's some artwork underneath it, which in there I see like some sort of trumpet and some sort of like weird like old paper or something like that. But you know, I won't go too deep into that paper thing. So that's So Runs the World Away by Josh Ritter. So let's talk about the tracks on here. So the first track on here is the intro, Curtains. And I think this is a perfect way to open this album. Like, just a 1-minute intro track, I think is always the perfect way to open a record. Because, you know, when you listen to this song, it's almost like the beginning of a movie, pretty much. You know, it's basically like, it's pretty much like the beginning of a movie with like the credits for the movie going on and all that stuff. And you know, when I listen to the song, I'm picturing like, you know, like things like Josh Ritter Presents, and then So Runs the World Away after that, which is like displayed on some curtains, and then like, you know, the curtain falls, and then like, you know, Josh Ritter's bandmates appear. That's pretty much what I picture when I listen to this opening track. One of the interesting things that music can do is it can really create some images, like pictures in your brain of something that, you know, it's an image that may not exactly exist, but it's an image that you just make up in your mind that music can make, that can make music really, really intriguing. Even though, you know, that's kind of something you kind of have to pay attention to the music in order to do. And then it comes into the first, like, actual song on the record, called Change of Time, which starts out with just Josh Ritter and an acoustic guitar, like, his voice and an acoustic guitar, and he sings about dreaming about, you know, swimming with stars up above, directionless and drifting, and, you know, just kind of, you know, reminiscing on about, like, the dream he had. And then it eventually, like, builds up, like, the bass, drums, and piano come in, and then after that, there's this jubilee of, like, electric guitars and banjo, and I think there's, like, a glockenspiel that I'm hearing, too. And then towards the middle, there's, like, this George Harrison-esque slide guitar solo, too. And, like, you know, the song is just, you know, it's an excellent song. Like, my favorite part of it, like, it starts out kind of minimal at first, but once it builds up, it turns into just this incredible track. It is, like, the lead single off of this album, which totally makes sense, because it sounds like a song that's, like, ready for radio. In fact, I think I heard it in some commercial or something like that, like, the beginning of it, like, not the build-up part that's in it. And then, like, you know, there's, like, these female background vocals singing Rough Seas, They Carry Me Wherever I Go, which, and one of the female backup singers in there is, Dawn Landais, who I think used to, be married to Josh Ritter, but I think they, like, broke up, which is kind of which I assume is probably what inspired Josh Ritter's most recent album. Not this one, but the one he put out in March of 2013, The Beast and Its Tracks. And that's a really good album, too, so I think I may review that sometime, too. Like, excellent songwriting, and, you know, musically it's pretty good. It's a lot more minimal than this So Runs the World Away album, but, you know. Anyway, let's go back into this So Runs the World Away album, because this is really what we're talking about here. Track number 3 is called The Curse, and this is a beautiful piano ballad. The piano in it sounds really nice, which is played by Sam Cassarier, because he is the keyboardist, and let me say, he did some pretty swell piano playing on this song. And lyrically, it's a song that really intrigues me. It's a song about this guy who's been wrapped up like a mummy for, like, years. Like, you know, it's like a mummy who, like, it's like a mummy in his tomb that after thousands of years finds this girl, falls in love with her, and then like, obviously, like, a bunch of different things happen, like he meets other women, and the relationship kind of turns from like something that's clever into something that kind of goes all wrong by the end. Excuse me. Like for example, by the end, like the mummy kisses the girl in hopes that he's gonna forget the question about being about being cursed, because he's thinking that he's cured. So this is like a story that you kind of have to. It's one of those songs that kind of implores you to like listen a little more carefully to the story, so that way you can really get it and realize how just the lyrics alone, not just the music, but the lyrics also can really leave you coming back for more. And there's lots of weird, like, cool instruments on here. Like, there's Zach Hickman, the bass player, playing an omnichord, which is like an old school keyboard, as well as a synthesizer, which kind of sounds like an E, as well as a synthesizer that kind of sounds like an electric guitar played with an E bow on it. And then it builds up, like, eventually with drums and bass, and then there's some dreamy vibraphones in there too. And then by the bridge, there's a beautiful trumpet solo as well as a glockenspiel, and an acoustic guitar is credited, but I can't hear it on here. But that's alright, because you don't have to hear every instrument that's credited in the liner notes, because, like, for example, if it has a bunch of instruments, like for example Beck's Sunday Sun, it's kind of sometimes a good thing to keep some of the things in the background, so that way it doesn't just feel like a mess of sounds. Track number 4 is called Southern Pacifica, and this song is a basic kind of Americana, kind of alt country kind of tune, talking about talking about kind of running to the wild plains, and telling a girl that trying to tell a girl that you're on the move and all that stuff, and it's kind of a song about how you're kind of taking yourself to meet whatever's trying to hunt for you, and musically the song delivers with guitars, bass, and drums, as well as some omnichords and horns in there too, and there's something unusual going on. Excuse me. But there's something unusual going on by the middle of the song, like the instrumental break. The horns sound like they're being looped or something like that, or the tracks sound like, or the trumpet tracks sound like they're chopped up and played kind of backwards in some moment in the song. Track number 5 is the really dark and percussion-driven rattling locks, and this song, it definitely has lots of percussion on there. I mean, I'm hearing a lot of sticks, and I think I hear some tambourines and a timpani and stuff like that. And then coming in, there's the electric guitar, and Josh Ritter sings about standing in the cold with a really wet face, rattling a girl's locks, because a girl's trying to keep you away from her, but at the same time you want to fall in love with her, and then you kind of realize that you can't do it because because the girl just locked you outside. And it's kind of a song about it's kind of a song about how there's just nothing new about the world just keeps on just giving you such problems, and relationships can be one of those things, especially if a girl is trying to stop you from being with them, either because they don't want you there, or probably because they'd rather let you be with your other friends, or something like that. And then And then the song gets all experimental, like, there's noisy guitar solos, a bassy synthesizer, and some synthesizers, some really dramatic organs, and even a bass clarinet is being used on here too, which adds sort of a jazzy kind of feel to the song. And then there's Don Landay's, doing a catchy little thing by singing "Black Hole, Black Hole." It's so catchy that I find myself singing along with that part. Like, musically, it's a killer track, and lyrically, I think it's a song that people can totally connect to, especially if a girl is trying to, stay away from you. Track number 6 is a murder ballad called Folk Bloodbath, and I think this song was actually a tune by John Mississippi Hurt that Josh Ritter had just written his own lyrics to. And I don't know if this song is a true story or if it's made up, but it sounds like it could be. I mean, the story literally does take place like a long, long time ago, like around like World War II kind of old, because it's about, 3 people. Like Lewis Collins takes a trip out west, and then when he comes home, he finds that Delia, the girl character in the song, is dead, and and when everybody hears that Delia is dead, they dress in red, and then eventually Lewis Collins, he gets murdered in the song, and then there's another guy, like shot by a guy named Stacka Lee, and then later in the song, Stacka Lee gets murdered. So there's like 3 people that get murdered in the song. So it's like this song that musically can be really beautiful, but lyrically can be just really kind of dark, and can just be really dark. And it's kind of like the song is kind of like, its story is kind of similar to like the plot of like one of those old like Civil War movies or something like that. These, and it is about how the sad thing with life is that people are always dying, just as other people arrive. So it's kind of a song kind of teaching you that lesson, that it's sad but true, that some people are dying just so other ones can arrive. But musically, this song is really beautiful. It's got this organ in there that I think sounds like it could be a church organ or something. In fact, there is a Farfisa organ recorded in fact, there is a Farfisa organ credited in the liner notes. In fact, there is a Farfisa organ credited in the liner notes for the song, so I assume that could be what it is, or it could be some other organ. But there are tons of Farfisas. There are some that sound like an old 60s like Vox organ, and then other ones that sound more like a harmonium or a pump organ or something like that. And the organ that I'm hearing in the song sounds more like a harmonium than like a Vox organ, because it's all droney and all that stuff. And then there's really dreamy guitars, as well as some simple upright bass and drums. A horn section comes in, I hear a saxophone in the background, as well, and also hear some banjos and it's in there too, and a beautiful trumpet solo, as well as these little bits of electric piano in the background, and then it's got these female background vocals, which I like to imagine as little angels from heaven just singing on here, is exactly what the female backup vocals sound on here. And the backup vocals on here are provided by Allie Moss and Don Landays, who I think used to be married to Josh Ritter, but I think Josh Ritter broke up with her pretty much. I mean, which I'm pretty sure the breakup happened around 2011 or something like that. Track number 7 is a simple acoustic ballad called Lark, and it's kind of a song about how we are assuring that peace will come to us eventually. It won't come to us right away. The instrumentation on here sounds gorgeous. The organ on here sounds really nice, as well as just some pure beauty from the sound of the mellotron on here, from like the string imitating sound from the mellotron on here. Here too. And the guitars on here are pretty simple. Like, the rhythm stuff, like the basic stuff, like the guitars, bass, and drums are pretty simple with those little keyboard instruments to add flavor to it. But, it's pretty simple musically, so you don't have to expect it to be, like, extra complex at all. Sometimes it just has to be simple instrumentation, so there you go. Track number 8 is called Lantern, and it's kind of a song about how what's the point in finding light that you'd have to strike a match to find. Like, sometimes someone that you love can be the light in your lantern. Like, you don't even need a lantern, but just someone that you love is always going to be the light in your life when life gets dark and dreary. There's always that light. Like, even in your darkest hours, there's still a light somewhere. Like, it's pretty hopeful lyrically. And musically, it's excellent. Like, it has some really unique guitar sounds on here. Has some really unique electric guitar picking sounds on here, as well as kind of this, classic rock organ being played in the background too. And then it builds up with the bass and drums, and it gets this piano chord, which really does fit in with the amazing build-up that goes on with the song. And then there's like a glistening vibraphone in the background too, and I just really love how powerful and strong that the song gets once you get towards the end of it, until it closes out in the 5-minute length. Track number 9 is called The Remnant, and this is a more bluesy kind of number. I mean, the electric piano on it sounds really bluesy, as well as the electric guitar. Josh Ritter is singing with these really distorted and muffled up vocals. But then there are some things in it that kind of set it apart from traditional blues songs. And that's the fact that the electric guitar on here has all this noise going on, especially once you get to the middle of it. It's, there's all kinds of weird effects going on with the electric guitar on here. And it's all thanks to Josh Ritter's guitar player in the Royal City Band, Austin Nevins. Because, lead guitar players usually can not only break out solos, but they can also, try out a bunch of weird kind of synthetic effects on their electric guitars too. Track number 10 is called See How Man Was Made, and this one is pretty minimal, a lot more quiet. Like, I think this is like the quietest song on the whole album. It's got this nylon string guitar, which gets paired with a few extra instruments, such as a vibraphone and a slide guitar as well, and a little horn in the background too. And then there's this like swirling electric guitar riff that comes in by like the middle of the song, which really does lift the song up and kind of makes it bloom from its pretty quiet and minimal beginning. And it's kind of a song about how man wasn't made to live alone. Living with people is totally how man was made. And talking about how sometimes home is just a place without a name, that's for sure. There's very little lyrics and very little instruments, but it's totally enough to grab you. Especially once you get to that part with that swirling electric guitar part. Track number 11 is a long 7-minute beast called Another New World, and it's kind of a song that is about Josh Ritter's talking about this girl that like he refers to as like Annabelle Lee, and talking about how you can just my favorite lyric on this album, my favorite lyric on this whole album comes from this song, and it's that one lyric at the end where they say, sometimes in my dreams I hear the singing of some unknown tropical bird, and I smile in my sleep, thinking Annabelle Lee has finally made it to another new world. That line totally connects to me. 100% pretty much. And the instruments on here sound great. It's pretty simple. It's got some swirling electric guitars, as well as the orchestral sound of the amazing mellotron on here, as well as this really intense piano line on here too. And then by the ending it gets cymbals and a flute and a trumpet, and I think I heard a violin too. In fact, there's a violin recorded in the liner notes, so yes, I am hearing a violin on here. That instrument doesn't really come in until the end of the song, so there you go. Track number 12 is called Orbital, and it's a pretty psychedelic kind of song with the synthesizers and the piano, and plus the electric guitar on here is actually played with an ebow on it, and the drums are really big, Super Bowl halftime show big. I don't really remember the lyrics, but I do know that musically it's definitely got this very psychedelic feel to it. And the closing track is called Long Shadows, and it's a short little closer, and since this is just a simple acoustic ballad, I thought it was a perfect way to close the album with something pretty quiet, with just acoustic guitars, with a little bit of percussion, a psychedelic little electric guitar riff paired with a synthesizer, and that's it. Because sometimes you don't need a whole lot of instruments to make a song great. And it is kind of a song about how if there's a long shadow falling across your heart, don't be afraid of the dark, because the dark is nothing to be afraid of. So this is a song that kind of engages you a little bit on here, as well as Folk Bloodbath, which engages you that people are always leaving just as other folks arrive. Production-wise, I'm very pleased with this album. Lyrically, I'm pretty happy with it. A lot of songs on here really connect to me, and it's just an album that's just beautifully done, and I can totally see why this is one of the most critically acclaimed releases of all of 2010. I'm going to give this album a 9 out of 10. So that's it for review number 38, and I'll see you for review number 39.